Welcome to GrassRoot, Ohio. Conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Pat Marida and Lee Blackburn, fighting corrupt legislation to bail out the failing nuclear and coal-based power, House Bill 6, and fighting for renewable energy here in Ohio. Pat Marida is the chair of the Ohio Sierra Club Nuclear Free Committee. She works on nuclear issues nationwide with the Sierra Club and other groups. In the 1980s, she worked on the Ohio Nuclear Weapons Freeze campaign and served as chair of the Central Ohio Sierra Club when the club took legal action against the city of Columbus for their sanitary sewer overflows and won, forcing Columbus to fix the problem. She's a retired pharmacist and a graduate of The Ohio State University. Lee Blackburn's activism began in high school, where his name appears in the Congressional Record for the first Earth Day. Having testified in both the Ohio House and Senate against House Bill 6, the nuclear bailout bill, he is currently preparing testimony for the Ohio Senate against House Bill 104, another badly written nuclear bill. Lee is a retired businessman who spent the better part of his career providing housing for low to moderate income individuals. Last week, the Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives, Larry Householder, his longtime advisor, and 3 Ohio lobbyists were arrested, accused by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI of a $61 million racketeering and bribery scheme linked to Ohio House Bill 6, the first energy, nuclear, and coal bailout bill, which passed last year. So, unfortunately, we do not have Lee's visual on our camera, but we do have his audio. He's online with us on the phone. I would like both of you to kind of tell us what's going on right now in Ohio with House Bill 6 and this corrupt House Speaker, Larry Householder. Why don't we give you a start, Pat, since we can see you, and then we'll go on to Lee.
So it certainly made international news with the announcement of the arrest of these people. And of course, everybody knows just what went on, that First Energy was behind this, but yet it was remarkable that that there's some justice with this, and that, of course, Generation Now had apparently just one donor. So Generation Now was a 501c4. It was a slush fund that promoted this and promoted all those flyers that everyone saw, all those radio and TV ads, first promoting House Bill 6, and then later trying to deep six the repeal. And the First Energy couldn't compete, basically. And so they were going into a phony bankruptcy. They weren't really quite, they were making some money, but they still couldn't compete. So they needed to have this bailout. And they also, not only that, but this bill, House Bill 6, also, undercut Ohio's renewable and efficiency energy law. So First Energy basically couldn't compete. So we're saying, people, look up, this company has not been honest in all of this, and get a different electric provider. And Energy Harbor is one that should be avoided also, because it's the company that came out of the bankruptcy and supplies your electric energy now.
What about you, Lee? What's your take on what's going on right now?
Well, just a while ago, the Ohio House voted to remove Householder as Speaker of the House. They haven't yet voted on his replacement. There's several individuals who are vying for that position, Jim Butler, as well as Bob Culp. It'll probably be a few days before we know who it is. But This bill, unfortunately, was bad from the beginning, and until it's repealed, will continue to be bad news for all of Ohio, because Ohioans will be charged on their electric bill, and if you don't live in the area, you get no benefit for that particular charge. I think that probably what's more important, however, is that while Householder has been removed from the speakership, he's still in the House, as is those individuals who had supported him. I refer to them as the Gang of 20. These are legislators that he had backed and provided money to help them get elected so that they could in turn elect him as Speaker.
Yeah, they all got money for their campaigns. A lot of them got money for their campaigns from this huge amount of money that Householder had gotten from First Energy, and we were all involved in trying to prevent House Bill 6 from being even passed. And it was very interesting because the people that fought for the bill were the union, a lot of union members, coal and nuclear, Republicans and Democrats, and Mike DeWine, the governor, was really pro HB6. And the people that were fighting it were environmentalists like you and I, and renewable energy businesses and activists and policymakers, as well as, and those were strange bedfellows. You know, the shale gas industry, fracking industry was against this, as well as environmentalists. So it passed. So what is your take? Householder is like the figurehead, but Mike DeWine was really for it. So what's your take on why Mike DeWine signed it so readily, and where he's at now with the bill, the idea of repealing, but what is he going to require that in the new bill?
Well, I think with DeWine, there's several different perspectives. One is his belief that we need every form of energy, including nuclear. But also keep in mind the fact that DeWine has received lots of money from First Energy over the years as being a politician. So that's obviously something that we need to be concerned about as well. Indeed, initially, DeWine said that he thought the bill was fine, even after this whole issue of Householder came out. I would assume that others got to him and said that, you know, really, you shouldn't take that perspective. So then he changed his mind and said that House Bill 6 should be repealed, but then replaced. And that has me wondering about what he is looking for in replacement. Does he still want a subsidy for these reactors? Obviously, that's a non-starter for a lot of people, and such a bill certainly wouldn't get passed.
How about you, Pat?
It probably will be an uphill struggle to get this bill repealed, but I think it's really important for us to contact our legislators, our House members and our Senate members, and say, let's repeal this bill. DeWine keeps putting out this mantra, which is totally untrue. First of all of the above is not an energy strategy. They say, we want all of them. That is not a strategy. That's just more of the same. But nuclear is not carbon-free. Yes, the chain reaction that produces the electricity is carbon-free, but from the uranium mining, milling, refining, the enrichment, the building of these plants, the transportation of this stuff all around the country, let alone the management of the high-level radioactive waste. And that waste is the real product of nuclear energy. Electricity is just a very fleeting byproduct. We're really left with waste that has to be managed for tens of thousands, millions of years, and it's going to take a lot of energy to do that. So we've got to counter the lie that nuclear is carbon free.
Right. I mean, all the above is such a simple, pat answer. And the House Bill 6 basically bails out the 2 Ohio nuclear reactors up on Lake Erie, which is Davis-Besse near Port Clinton, Ohio, on the western part of Lake Erie, and then Perry nuclear reactor, which is just east of Cleveland. And can you guys give us a little bit of update about those nuclear reactors? I mean, where are we and how safe are they? Pat.
Well, Davis-Besse is famous for being the reactor with the hole in the head, where the boric acid dripped on the head of the reactor for years. It was a huge amount of corrosion, yet the inspectors didn't look. When they finally found it sometime in 2006, it had eaten a hole all the way through the reactor head. Actually, the only thing that was protecting it, people from that and disaster was a thin liner. And they had Davis-Besse has been given a 20-year license extension past its 40-year lifespan, engineered lifespan. And Perry is looking for a 20-year license extension. And Perry has been world famous for being the most dangerous nuclear reactor in terms of reactor safety.
And why is that?
It sits on a earthquake fault as well, which was discovered as it was being built. There was a huge fault right underneath the Perry nuclear reactor. So,
as far as you're anti-nuke activists and advocating for renewable energy, but what is your recommendations of what Ohio should do with these 2 nuclear reactors?
Well, I think that they should be closed. Both reactors generate energy that is much more expensive than renewables. So we'd be better off with wind and solar than we would with nuclear. You just heard Pat talk a little bit about some of the problems with them. These are aging reactors that are now beyond their lifespan, and the safest thing, the most sustainable thing would be to shut them down.
And the companies, another thing is that it's very expensive to do the upgrades and repairs. So they're actually getting bypasses from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, so they do not have to do the necessary upgrades and repairs. It's really frightening.
Now, so why is First Energy trying to bail out them and bail out these old coal power plants? I mean, you would think that they would want to make money and shut down power plants that were crumbling or that were obsolete. So I don't really understand why First Energy was trying to bail these out. Why don't they put their money into the future? Do you have any take on that?
Well, it's perplexing.
I think that's go ahead, Pat, I'm sorry.
It's perplexing why they refuse to modernize. It's just like, well, we've done it this way for the last X number of years and we're not going to change. And First Energy has dug in far more than the other utilities as far as not complying with the renewable and energy efficiency mandate. Lee, you want to take it from there?
Sure. There's a couple things here. Probably the issue that I see here is that you're dealing with an entity that had been a regulated industry for years and years, and now Ohio has deregulated their electricity, and the company really doesn't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to compete. And I think part of their means of competing was to try to keep everything running. I should also point out that there really is a difference between the coal and the nuclear. The nuclear is primarily First Energy. The coal plants are actually two plants, one in Ohio and one in Indiana, that's owned by a company called the Ohio Valley Electric Corporation, or OVEC. And they were built in the 50s to supply electricity to the Southern Ohio Enrichment Facility outside of Piketon. It's called the Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Plant. And there was a consortium that was created to own these plants, and it still does. And it's hard to get all the members of the consortium to basically vote to shut these plants down. Hence, there was a need, if they were going to keep operating, and they're operating at a loss, there was a need to fund them. And so they were included in the bill.
This is Carolyn Harding with GrassRoot Ohio, and today I'm talking with Pat Marida and Lee Blackburn, both activists against House Bill 6 and for sustainable renewable energy. I would just like to ask you a little bit more about this scandal. Can you tell us, I know that today the Ohio House of Representatives voted to take Larry Householder's speakership away, but he still can be a rep. He still, until he's been proven guilty. He and the four others that were charged could foreseeably be put away for 20 years in prison. What's your take on this, and what do you feel should be done? But what I also I see these guys as the front. I mean, someone's putting the money in their pocket, and that's First Energy, but who specifically at First Energy makes these decisions to get this money into the hands of a corrupt politician? Do you have any take on that?
Well, First Energy went looking for somebody to help them get a bill out for their nuclear reactors. They have tried for a number of years, first with the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, and they got shot down several times. And then they've tried several times with the Ohio legislature and really wasn't getting very far. So it appears that they decided to look for a politician in the name of Larry Householder to come back into politics. He had been out for a while, and to help them get a bill out done. And so they did this by means of a secret 501c4 entity called Generation Now, in which they put the $61 million into, that helped him fund, I refer to them as the Gang of 20, individuals who are still in the House, who receive lots of money from him and lots of support, and will continue, unfortunately, rooting for Householder as long as he continues to remain in the House, which it looks like he probably will, because he refused to step down as a speaker, so they had to remove him. He still stays in the House, and in November he's running unopposed. So it looks like he'll be reelected in November. So we need to be very concerned about the various House members.
Yes, the write-in
people, right?
Yes, indeed.
Let's move on. I mean, one of the lobbyists is a former GOP chairman, Matt Borges. You know, it's like, these aren't just, low level folks. These are high level lobbyists, and they are going to be, if they're indicted, they could face up to 20 years in prison. And yet, unless we hold them accountable, it might just go, I don't know. I don't want it. Things have been going under the bridge too much. So I think people need to step up and make sure that these crooked people, as well as the Gang of 20, Lee, They need to, that fund money that they have gotten needs to be donated to charity. And they have to be held accountable for taking that money that is corrupt. That's my take. What do you guys think?
I would agree. Just yesterday, both the House and the Senate put forth a bill to repeal House Bill 6. And the things that's interesting is the sponsors for the House bill. It's House Bill 738. There were 2 sponsors and 39 co-sponsors, and it appears that only one of the co-sponsors are members of the Gang of 20, which says to me that those individuals still are not willing to admit that there was something wrong here with House Bill 6 and that it should be repealed.
Well, not only did it bail out the nuclear and coal plants, but it got rid of the sustainable and energy efficiency portfolio, right? House Bill 6, correct?
Pat?
Well, they just don't like competition. I mean, let's face it. And they refuse to modernize and move with the, with where things are going. The cheaper, the locally supplied and efficiency. I mean, it's so important to upgrade your house and put in more insulation and get better windows and have programs to help low-income people do this. All this was undercut.
Right. And I feel like anything that's going to be, reestablished, a new bill has to give back, has to replace or at least go back to what it was, if not more, for energy efficiency and renewable energy, because that was corruptly taken away. So that has to be addressed by any new bill that is passed. And we need to hold the legislators as well as Governor DeWine accountable to getting those back. What do you guys think?
Well, I would agree. Unfortunately, right now at least, and it's subject to change, but House Bill 738, which is the House bill to repeal House Bill 6, basically says that it would return to prior law, which indicates to me that the intent here is to basically undo all aspects of House Bill 6, including the repeal of the energy efficiency standards.
That would be really good. So,
but as I say, it's subject to change, so who knows what we'll end up with.
Exactly. My wish is that all of this corrupt legislation and the corrupt players be held accountable and be tried and have just punishment. That's my hope. But I'd like to move on to a couple new things that you also are working on that's regarding the nuclear industry. Both of you, I think, are working on the issue House Bill 104. Can you describe what House Bill 104 is about?
Well, certainly. Pat, do you want to do that, or would you like me to?
I'd like both of you to weigh in.
Well, I'll start out and tell a little about the history of it, and then Lee can maybe talk about what it does. So it was introduced, although it wasn't the first bill of this type, but I testified against it in a House committee last October. It was 34 pages at the time, and it was written pretty much directly off the web page of a company in Cleveland called eGeneration, whose parent organization was called Energy from Thorium. And they wanted to do, it was a totally bizarre bill. And then we didn't hear about it after that original testimony until all of a sudden during the COVID times, they started having more hearings in the House committee. And so I wasn't going to go into the State House because of the COVID again, but I sent my original testimony. I resent it because really nothing had changed since the last time. And we were the only ones, the Sierra Club, we were the only ones that testified against it. And so anyway, It passed out of the committee and it passed the House 80-11, and a lot of Democrats voted for it. We just don't understand that. They must not have really understood what the bill was about. So I'll let Lee take it from here and describe what the bill actually says and would do.
Okay.
People that don't know much about laws or about nuclear thorium.
Okay, well, let me start by just saying that House Bill 104 is referred to as the Anthem Act. Anthem referring to advanced nuclear technology helping energize mankind. That's the name of it. Pat had mentioned that the bill as originally introduced was 34 pages. As passed, it was only 10 pages. So they reduced it down by 2/3 and completely sanitized it so that they took out reference, for instance, to Pat's mentioning e-generation. They've taken a lot of things out of it so that if you read the bill, there are things in there that you might pass right over without recognizing that it's an issue. For instance, it says there will be nuclear waste reduction. And nuclear waste reduction is a way of saying that there'll be reprocessing, which means that they're going to take highly radioactive spent fuel and reprocess it to extract out certain radioactive materials. In this particular case, it would be uranium-233, which is needed in order to jumpstart reaction of thorium. That's basically the only way to do it.
We have 1 minute. So give us, in a nugget, why we need to be against this.
Against 104?
Yeah, in a nugget, because we have 1 minute.
Well, you know, you would be building thorium reactors. You would be spreading around nuclear waste. You would be contaminating the Ohio countryside.
And Ohio would be liable for all of this, for any accidents or any spills. It would
so it's radioactive waste.
Yes.
Among other things.
They would like Ohio to take ownership of radioactive waste, which is unprecedented anywhere in the country.
Okay, that's Ohio House.
And it would be building thorium reactors, which don't exist.
Okay, and Pat, you said there's an event coming up. Give me a quick little update on the event that you want to tell folks about.
Hiroshima, Nagasaki, this is the 75th year of those horrendous bombings that were absolutely not necessary. Japan had already been defeated. And so we're having a commemoration. It's going to be 6 p.m. next Thursday, August 6th, at the Washington Gladden Social Justice Park in Columbus, which is at the corner of Cleveland Avenue and East Broad Street. It's 404 East Broad Street. We're going to have a number of speakers. We're going to have a poster display showing what happened there on those fateful days that should never ever be used again.
And is there a link that they can find information?
You can go to the Ohio Sierra Club website and look at our Nuclear Free Committee, and there is a lot of great information about what's going on in nuclear Ohio, including this event. Okay, well, that's it for our time. Thank you so much, Pat, and thank you so much, Lee. And let's keep working to keep these corrupt legislators accountable and to keep promoting our renewable, sustainable energy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.